Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Robbins. I'm athletic director here at Vineland High School. At this time, I would like to introduce our head boys track and field coach, Mr. Elliot DeShields. He will be delivering this evening's invocation. Coach DeShields.
Thank you. At this time, we'll all please bow our heads for an invocation. Dear Father in heaven, we just come at this time, Lord, again, just thank you for bringing us to this point in our lives, Lord. Just thank you for the celebration, dearly Father, Lord. We just thank you for the people that came out in support of all these fine athletes that we have here from Vineland High School, Lord. We just thank you for their lives, Lord. We thank you for their accomplishments. Most of all, Lord, we just thank you for the example that they set for the youth of today, dearly Father, Lord. We just thank you again for just bringing us together, Lord, and just having a great time, celebration, again, of their fine accomplishments. Just bless them, Lord, and just keep them in your perfect peace, Lord. And at this time, Lord, we just ask that you please bless the food that we're about to receive, Lord. We ask that it be nourishing to the body, pleasing to the palate, Lord. And again, Lord, we just thank you again for all your many rich blessings, dear Heavenly Father. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thanks, Coach. Superintendent of Vineland Public Schools is Dr. Mary Bruccio.
Thank you, Donnie. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Central Administration, who is here with us this evening, I would like to take a moment to thank the All-Sports Booster Club for sponsoring this lovely event, which they do every year. It is truly a pleasure to be here tonight as we honor wonderful Vineland High School alumni for their athletic accomplishments. Each of you certainly have deserved the honor and recognition, and we're very happy to be a part of tonight with you and your families. I want to congratulate each of you and your families on your recognition, and I want to congratulate you also not only for your contributions to athletics, but more importantly for being role models for our young athletes and for our community. That's so very important. When people walk down the hall of Vineland High and they see all those plaques up there, they aspire to be up there one day too. So thank you for the role models that you are and for setting an example for our young people. Again, congratulations to each of you and to your families. I wish all of you here this evening a very blessed and happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy your evening. God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Bruccio. We'd also like to recognize members of Central Office Administration and our Board of Education for attending this evening. Thank you for attending. Would you please rise for a round of applause, Central Office and Board of Ed? Thank you. President of our All-Sports Booster Club is Mrs. Debbie Anderson.
Thank you. Good evening. Speaking on behalf of the Booster Club, I would like to welcome everyone to the Vineland High School All-Sports Booster Club Hall of Fame banquet. Along with our athletic director, Don Robbins, the Booster Club is proud to host this annual event. I would like to thank the Vineland Public School Administration that is here with us this evening for attending. Most of you know that our club is comprised of a group of energetic volunteer parents and friends, most of children who have already graduated many years ago from Vineland High School. But we'd like to continue to support Vineland athletics. Among the Booster Club members, I would like to recognize the Hall of Fame Committee for all of their hard work in choosing our inductees here this evening. Would my fellow Booster Club members, as well as the Hall of Fame Committee, please stand to be recognized? Thank you. This evening, we are very pleased that in our presence are two past presidents of the Vineland High School All-Sports Booster Club, Mr. Jim Clay and Mr. Skip Wright. If you would mind standing. Vineland sport history is so rich and meaningful to the Booster Club. Along with the current inductees to the Hall of Fame this evening, there are a number of previously inducted Hall of Famers attending this evening. We would like to thank each and every one of you for coming to our event to wish well the newest members of your illustrious group. Previous Hall of Famers, would you please stand to be recognized? Thank you so much. An exact replica of the plaques that the new inductees are receiving this evening, as you know, are permanent fixtures on our Wall of Fame at Vineland High School South, alongside of your plaques for all generations of students to aspire to. As I said, Vineland sport history is rich and deep, and there is no better place to see that than the Hall of Fame at Vineland High School South. A headstone will be placed in the front walkway of the Vineland High School South for Ron Matalucci, our posthumous inductee, along with the previously inducted posthumous Hall of Famers. Please take a moment to check out the wonderful displays in the front of the room. It's wonderful to see their sports displayed in articles, photos, and memorabilia. There are some wonderful, wonderful pieces of history up here. I definitely would like for you all to take advantage of it. The Booster Club is proud to congratulate and thank all of the inductees here this evening. We're all here to honor this amazing group of stellar athletes. Please note that on each table, we have put a future Hall of Fame nomination form. If anyone happens to know of anyone that would qualify with the criteria for being in our Booster Club Hall of Fame, please take the time to fill out an application for them. And if anyone needs more than the one that is on each table, please see our Booster Club member, Maxine Mulligan. As you leave, I would like to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. And again, thank you for coming to support our 2017 Hall of Famers.
Thank you, Debbie. You're right. It's nice to see so many former coaches and players here this evening. Also, former athletic director Robin Daplin is here with his wife Paula. Robin, thank you for coming. And in Robin and Paula Daplin tradition, the Greenview told me the buffet is open, and someone from the Greenview will be around to your table to call you up. So enjoy your meal, and then we'll come back with the induction ceremonies. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our first inductee this evening. He is being presented by Dr. Bill Dudley. Bill Dudley, a Hall of Famer himself, is going to introduce Mr. Ed Gabriel to us tonight. Dr. Bill Dudley.
Can I put this in a holder so I can shuffle my papers around?
Television for Channel 9.
Okay. All right, so I just have to hold. All right. So we good to go? Okay. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody having a good time? Okay. Hope you're enjoying yourself and your meal. A couple things I would like to do before I do my presentation on Ed is I want to thank Donnie Robbins and Dr. McCann and Debbie Anderson from the Booster Club because they made a decision maybe 7 or 8 years ago to hold this banquet in the fall and have it as just the Hall of Fame banquet. Prior to that, the year I went in, which was 10, 11 years ago, it was held in conjunction with senior night in the spring. And so you would have all the senior athletes that were out there that night, and their coaches would present their coaches' awards and go through the rosters and so forth and so on. So you can imagine, with all the sports for the whole year, the number of kids that were there, the parents that were there, and then they would have the Hall of Fame induction afterwards. And I felt at the time that, you know, kids are kids, and so they're excited about graduating and where they're going after school and so forth and so on. And so I felt that the Hall of Fame didn't really get its due. And so my hats are off to Donnie Robbins in making that decision to have this in the fall with Dr. McCann and with Debbie, and I'm sure there were other people who were influential in moving it to the fall that we're having it tonight. But I really feel that, Donnie, that was a big move on your part, and I'd like to just salute you and thank you for doing that, because tonight is just about the Hall of Fame, and that's the way it should be. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I've had a number of people come up to me tonight, and they'd say, Bill, how do you know Ed Gabriel? He's so much older than you. But actually, Ed Gabriel is not much older than me. I knew Ed when he came from Newfield to Memorial School back in the day, when Memorial School was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. The freshman class was at Memorial, was not at the high school at the time. So Ed came down from Newfield, and I was only a 7th grader, and so I saw this guy from a distance, and he was on the basketball team, and I was on the JV basketball team, and he played football there, and I kind of saw him from afar, but then he was gone. You know, he went on to the high school and was a sophomore there, and I was in 8th grade, then I was in 9th grade, and he was a junior, and then when I became a sophomore at the high school that we know now as the 11-12 building, actually, it was still at the old high school till Christmas of my sophomore year and of Ed's senior year. There's this Ed Gabriel guy again, and he's about 6'3", and he's about 225, and I'm still about 5'11" and about 165. So he still looks like a monster to me. But so that's my introduction to Eddie Gabriel. As a 9th grader, I was in 7th grade, and he was a senior when I was a sophomore. And I was on the football team, and I was on the basketball team, and I was on the track team. So that's how I came to know Eddie Gabriel. So with that being said, I also, of course, knew all the seniors on the team. And there are a number of them that have come out tonight, and a couple of football players that were on the team a couple years ahead of Ed. And I think that that's kind of a tribute to Ed and the type of guy he is, that after 55 years, he still has teammates that came out tonight to support him. I have 3 letters that I really would like to read from his teammates that could not make it here tonight. The first was John Brodzik, who I remember was the center on that team. And John says, "Congratulations, Ed. I can't think of anyone I played football and baseball with who deserves this honor more than you. I remember you also did basketball and track, and you were excellent in all 4 sports. You were physically gifted, but worked hard every day to improve, and as well, you demonstrated desire, toughness, and leadership. I wish I could be there to see you receive this honor you so much deserve. I was and still am always proud to call you a teammate and a friend. We also had some good times in Mrs. Coulter's Spanish class. We'll have to get a debriefing on that later, Ed. And the prom, and down at the Jersey Shore. Be well, Ed, and God bless you, Johnny Brodzik." Okay? Then one of the guards on that team was Mike Cressy, and Mike lives down in Florida. John's also in Florida, so these guys were a long ways away. But he said, "Please relay the following for Ed's induction into the Hall of Fame. Hi, Ed. Want to congratulate you on your induction into the Hall of Fame. It is long overdue for someone with not only your outstanding athletic ability, but also your academic achievements and moral character. Wish I could be there for the deserving honor you are receiving tonight. Hope we get to see each other in the future to reminisce about old times in our friendship. Congratulations again, your friend, Mike Cressy." And the last one is from Donnie Viola. And Donnie Viola was the fullback on that team. Donnie Viola was cut out of the same mold of a guy by the name of Larry Zonka. If you remember him, played for Syracuse and then went on to Miami. We're going to get back to Zonka later. But anyhow, he says, "Dear Bill, so sorry to be so close to the induction ceremony. Barbara Hood, which is his wife, and I just completed a 2,750-mile RV trip from our home in Michigan to Coronado, California. So, my congratulations to Ed Gabriel on his induction in the VHS Hall of Fame. Gabe, it seems difficult to imagine that Barb and I have known you since 1960, but I believe this to be true. We know you as our classmate, my teammate, and our good friend. You were, after all, in our wedding party. Congratulations on your induction into the Vineland High School Athletic Hall of Fame, an honor you most certainly earned and deserve. I'll leave it up to Doc Dudley to recount the facts of your VHS athletic accomplishments. My input is about Ed Gabriel, the man. We instantly became friends when you arrived at Vineland High School from Newfield, so we have, as I said, 57 years of history. During those early years, we were teammates and friends, but it is who you were then and still are today that I want to share with those present this evening who might not know you as well. 3 values we share are a belief in family, a belief in individual achievement, and a belief in personal responsibility. Individual achievement is obvious in your competitive spirit in athletics, both at Vineland High School and then at Penn State. But you continue doing your adult life as a leader of men, serving your country as an Army drill sergeant during the Vietnam War, and rising to the position of Company Chief Executive Officer prior to your recent retirement. Your belief in personal responsibility is a cornerstone of your character, not only achieving your successes, but never looking to shift responsibility for things gone wrong. Nothing seems to irk you more than those who blame others for their problems. And finally, family. You have and continue to be a wonderful husband to Rosalie, a terrific father to your 3 children, and now a loving, dedicated grandfather to your 7 grandchildren. In a world where you don't need to try hard to find skilled athletes with dubious character, it is my honor to know you, Ed Gabriel. You are and always have been the complete package. And thanks for our friendship. Enjoy this honor. I sincerely regret not being able to share this with you. My excuse is 3,000 miles and a family commitment of my own. All the best, Don. That's a pretty moving letter from a teammate. So, I wanted to share those things with you, but now I'm going to get on with my introduction to Ed. How many of you have heard of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon? Or some of you or most of you familiar with the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, how that works? It's a concept that anyone involved with the Hollywood film industry can be linked through their film roles with prolific character actor Kevin Bacon within 6 steps. Several times during my introduction of Ed, I will make reference to the 6 degrees of Gabe. I think you will find it rather fascinating. There are some truly outstanding athletes in the Vineland High School Sports Hall of Fame. Archie Trento, who played multiple sports in the mid-30s, is generally considered the Jim Thorpe of Vineland High School. Lisa Iori Tribucchi, who happens to be here this evening, was an Olympic caliber swimmer. Gene Caterina, Jay Louisi, Tony DiTomo, and Ronnie DiRucci were all legendary football greats. Glenn Carbonero is still considered the gold standard for boys soccer at Vineland High School after a great college and professional soccer career. And Phil DeRigo was an outstanding basketball and tennis star at Vineland High School and Lehigh University. There have been a few athletes at Vineland High School who earned varsity letters in 4 different sports over the course of their high school career. Among these are 2 Hall of Famers, Chicky Mazzola and Frank Vanucci, who both did it in the mid-1950s. But there is no athlete, male or female, who has ever earned 4 letters, varsity letters from Vineland High School in 1 academic year, with the exception of Ed Gabriel. Now, in the beginning of my senior year, which was 1965, the NJSIA adopted a new rule prohibiting participation in more than 1 sport per season. Therefore, there was no football, soccer players, there were no basketball wrestlers, there was no baseball track, there was no swimming, soccer, there was no overlap. So consequently, after 1964, the 4-letter man in 1 academic year became extinct. So let's take a look at what this guy we call Gabe has in his Vineland High School resume. In 3 years at Vineland High School, he earned 9 varsity letters, the maximum that would be possible today. In a strange twist of fate, Ed did not earn a varsity letter in football his sophomore year, even though he played in most of the games and eventually replaced the middle linebacker. However, his senior year, he did the uniquely improbable and now totally impossible feat of earning varsity letters in 4 sports: football, baseball, basketball, and track. In football, Gabe was 2nd team All-State. He was 1st team All-South Jersey, 1st team All-Group 4, first team All-County, and he was captain of the football team. In basketball, he was co-captain of the team and its leading rebounder and its best defender. In track, he led the team in scoring, dominating the weight events of shot put, discus, and javelin. And in baseball, he was among the top 4 hitters on the team as a starter at first base and in right field. So my first reference to the 7 degrees of Gabe is this. He played for Nello Delalio in football and baseball. He played for Irv Gosman in basketball. And he played track for Clarence Koch. And would you believe that all 3 of these are the winningest coaches in those sports at Vineland High School? So upon graduation from Vineland High School, Gabe turned down scholarship offers from, among other schools, Maryland, Duke, Princeton, and West Point. He chose Penn State, where the legendary coach Rip Engel sought his talents. Injuries took their toll on Ed, but he lettered his senior year at Penn State under their first-year coach, a guy by the name of Joe Paterno. I did a little math and found that Delalio, Engel, and Paterno combined for an overall football record of 634 wins and only 225 losses. So that's an incredible 74% winning percentage. So this 6 degrees of Gabe had a lot of W's in it. Here's another 6 degrees of Gabe's career I found in a Penn State program from his senior year versus Syracuse. On that Penn State squad was a tight end by the name of Ted Qualick. As you know, Ted went on and played for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Orangemen had a former Vineland High School standout who was a teammate of Ed's from the 62 team, Frank Swifty Parrish. Syracuse also had a backup halfback by the name of Tom Coughlin, who went on to become the head coach of the New York Giants and won 2 NFL Super Bowls. But most impressive on that Syracuse team, Gabe played against 2 college All-Americans and NFL Hall of Famers, Floyd Little and that same Larry Zonka that I compared Donnie Viola to. So that's just one team that he played against at Penn State his senior year with that lineup of significant players. Now let's take a look at what Gabe was up to after he graduated from Penn State and hung up his cleats. He graduated in May in '67 with a BA in accounting. He entered an MBA program at Lehigh University, but he had to leave a semester shy to come and help take care of his dad, who was ill at the time. Once his dad recovered, Ed enlisted in the Army Reserve. He went to Fort Ord in California for basic and advanced infantry training. He was transferred back east to Fort Dix, New Jersey, where he was named the outstanding graduate, and as an E7 became a drill sergeant at the academy. Ed served in the military for 6 years, from '68 to '74. Meanwhile, Gabe met his future wife, Rosalie, who's with us this evening, while working as an intern at RCA. She was attending William & Mary in Virginia, and they married in 1969. She went on to teach elementary school in Haddonfield, and they eventually settled in the Morristown area in '76. Gabe started his business career, among of all places, right here in Vineland at the Kimball plant, division of Owens, Illinois, in 1968. He moved on to OMAC Industries in '71 and quickly moved up through the management ranks, and in 1977, at the age of 32, became president of one of their divisions. He eventually did a management buyout with his partners, and 2 years later, they cashed out and sold to a competitor. From 1985 to 2016, Gabe was in senior management or was a CEO of 5 different companies. He retired in 2016 as the CEO of Dental Associates of Delaware. Ed and Rosalie are proud parents of their 3 children who are with them this evening, their daughter Marissa, older son Pete, and younger son Mike. Gabe's most recent trip down memory lane prior to tonight was September 17, 2016, when he traveled back to Happy Valley and Beaver Stadium at Penn State. There at halftime of the Penn State Temple football game, Ed and his senior teammates from that '66 team were honored on the 50th anniversary of Joe Paterno's first season as head coach of the Nittany Lions. I'm sure seeing yourself up on that Jumbotron before 100,000 fans had to be quite a thrill, Ed. But knowing Gabe as I do, I have a feeling that being inducted tonight into the VHS All-Sports Hall of Fame will rank right near the top of his outstanding athletic business and community career. Ed can be directly linked to 22 members of the Hall of Fame. Nello Delalio, Clarence Kosh, Herb Gosman, and Larry Aldridge. His teammates Pete Fermanis, myself, the 64 state champion cross-country team of Marquetto, D'Angelo Shable, and Larry Campbell are all track teammates, and tonight's posthumous inductee, Ronnie Matalucci. In the final analysis, Gabe, it wasn't really the wins and the losses with him. It was coming to practice every day, working hard to improve his skills and inspire his teammates. On game day, he never took a down off. He never took an offensive or defensive possession off. He never gave away an at-bat. And he always gave his best effort in each field event. Gabe loved to compete. So it is my personal pleasure and honor as a Vineland High School Hall of Fame member to welcome Eddie Gabriel into the Vineland High School Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2017.
You're too much. Too much.
Look over that one. Stand in front of the podium. I'll hold you up if you need to. Get this stuff out of your way.
When I was sophomore, maybe a junior in high school, I started to get some flattering things written about me in local newspapers. And then a very wise man pulled me aside and said, "Eddie, let me give you some advice about flattery." He said, "Smell it, but don't eat it." So Bill, your introduction really smelled nice. I want to thank Debbie Anderson and the VHS All-Sports Booster Club, the Hall of Fame Selection Committee, Athletic Director Don Robbins, and particularly Bill Dudley for nominating me. This is just a tremendous honor, a tremendous award. I also tonight want to publicly thank my wife Rosalie of 48 years. For putting up with my interest in football for all these years, because this occasion brought back a memory to me of when Rosalie was 9 months pregnant with our first child, Marissa. And there we were in the first quarter watching the Penn State-Stanford game. And Rosalie says, "Oh, I think it's time. I think the baby's coming. Time to go." And I asked her if she could wait until halftime. Fortunately, we got to the hospital. In the labor room, there was a radio. So while poor Rosalie was going through labor, I got to listen to the rest of the Penn State-Stanford game. Thank you, Rosalie. I was a Newfield kid. Newfield, for people who didn't know where it was, I used to describe as 4 miles past the resumed speed sign heading north out of Vineland. Little town, 1,100 people, was a sending district to Vineland back then. You went from kindergarten to 8th grade with the same 20 kids, give or take a couple. But for, it was right out of, it could have been out of the movie Stand By Me. We had one traffic light, we had Joe the cop, Carl the barber, this kind of thing. But for a little town, Newfield contributed quite a few athletes to Vineland. Disproportionate to the size. I remember guys' names some people might remember: Dick St. Albin, Bill Quigley, my brother Ron, Eddie Gatier, Donnie Wilson, Hank Schneeweiss, Mike Panzino, and just many more. We're all fellow Newfield guys. I remember distinctly when I first got hooked on football in particular. It was 1955. I was 10 years old, and it was Thanksgiving Day, the Vineland-Millville game. In that game, Millville had won something like 31 straight games. They were undefeated. It was at Millville. If they beat Vineland, they would have broken the state record for consecutive wins. Vineland had a good team that year too. I think 7 wins, I think maybe only a tie. So the stage was really set. There were like 12,000 people at this game. It was incredible. I was a little 10-year-old kid in the end zone. And I remember that game till this day. Millville scored right off the bat, like a 90-yard touchdown run. And we thought, oh, here it goes. And then Vineland came back. And guys like Jay Louisi, a couple of touchdowns. Quarterback Howie Mickey Tuck, pass to Bob Spada. And near the end of the game, in the end zone I was in, I remember a pass, I think, bounced off Bob Spada's hands and into Danny DePalma, the other end. The crowd went nuts. Vineland wound up winning the game, upsetting them like 27-6, something like that. And it was just bedlam. The Vineland fans rushed the field, tore down the goalpost, and I just sat there as a little 10-year-old kid thinking, boy, this is what I want to do someday, you know. So there I was 7 years later, Gatone Stadium, on the field, Thanksgiving Day, Vineland-Millville game. It also meant the Group 4 championship for that game. Vineland scored first, missed the extra point. We were up 6-0. Second quarter, near the end of the quarter, they bring in their passing quarterback, a kid by the name of Rich Panzishin. So I know it's going to be a pass, and I rush in, and the play's off, and I reach up, and I reach. I swear I came within 2 inches of blocking that pass, 2 inches. And throws this long pass. We thought we had it intercepted. The Millville kid pulls it out of our guy's hands, goes for a touchdown. They kick the extra point. The rest of the game was scoreless, and Millville won 7-6. It was a heartbreak, and that game haunted me for years later because I kept thinking a little bit more strength, a little bit more effort, 2 inches, and I could have changed the whole outcome of that game. Really bothered me. But so you started out from Newfield at Memorial School, as Bill said. Played 3 sports there, had a lot of fun. My sophomore year in Vineland, a couple things stood out to me. One game we played in Camden. I think we actually lost the game, but at the end of the game, there was a lot of trash talk and everything during the game. At the end of the game, the Camden fans, and we always had rough battles with Camden, started throwing stones at us, the players. And I mean, not stones, rocks. And I mean, not just a couple people, dozens of them. And Nello Delalio going, run, boys, run. And we were running for the school buses as we're getting stoned. Another memory I have from my sophomore year was the Bridgeton game, at Bridgeton. At that time, I was a second-string linebacker behind a kid by the name of Wally Challo, which was like being the backup to Godzilla. Wally was tough as nails. He was indestructible, or so we thought. The second half kickoff of that game, Wally goes down. Vineland ran a 7-diamond defensive formation because of Wally. He was the middle linebacker. He stopped everything. So I shockingly go into this game and proceeded to get myself killed. I mean, I got hit from more sides than I knew there were positions. And I just thought, boy, if I'm going to play this game, I got to get a little bigger, a little stronger, if I'm going to do this. Junior year, Vineland-Millville game was a 7-7 tie. My senior year, a couple of things I really remember I'd like to share with you just briefly. In basketball, again at Camden, we go into Camden. It was very intimidating, always playing sports at Camden. So Camden had these high-flying basketball teams back then that were amazing. They were totally intimidating. They would go through their pregame warm-up drill, dunking the ball, dunking drills with their 5'10" guards and so on. So before the game, our coach, Herb Gosman, says to us, okay, guys, here's the game plan. We're going to work the ball, pass the ball, work the ball. Till we get a good shot, right, Coach? No, we're not going to shoot. Coach, if we don't shoot, how are we going to win? We're going to get them so frustrated, they're going to foul us, and we're going to win on foul shots. So we go out there, and we were a mediocre team at best. We're passing, they steal it, go down and score. Pass. Pretty soon they realize we had no intention of taking a shot. And they're going like this for us to drive the lane. And the crowd realizes that we don't intend to shoot the ball. And they start stomping and booing. I thought they were going to stone us again, but they didn't. Fortunately, they were in the gym, and no stones to be had. Then later in my senior year, Nello Delalio was a relentless recruiter. I had become interested in track. My older brother Ron had thrown the javelin. That got me interested in the javelin. And for the preceding couple of years, I had a lot of fun with the weight events and track, and I didn't want to give that up. But Delalio kept bugging me to try baseball, to come out for baseball. So finally, on a whim, I said to him, Coach, is there any way I could do both? So he went and talked to Coach Kosh, and sure enough, they agreed and they let me. I had a ball that year. I really did. But to be honest with you, I'm glad they changed the rule because, in all fairness, it wasn't really fair to either team. I wasn't really as good as I probably could have been if I had focused on one sport or the other. I was named to the All-South Jersey football team. Got a call from Danny Testa, the athletic director, to come up for a picture at the Camden Courier Post building. At that time, only 11 people were selected for a first-team award like that. I show up, and I'm the only one without my uniform. Something got lost in communication, but I felt like a real hayseed, coming to the city or something. Luckily, the quarterback on that All-South Jersey team was a fellow by the name of Mike Madden, who was from Camden Catholic, which was right across the street from the Courier Post field. We were taking pictures. He takes me over there. We get a Camden Catholic uniform. And my picture here, the All-South Jersey team is in a Camden Catholic uniform. Recruiting was interesting. It was different back then. I think a lot of the players now are much more sophisticated and worldly wise on this whole recruiting thing. They soak up all their visits and I don't know what they're allowed, 5 or 6, and they go all over the country, and it's great. It was a little bit different with me. One of the schools that was really interested in me was Duke. And I remember they sent me 2 plane tickets to come down to visit. And my little Italian mother says, "Ooh, where's Duke?" It's in North Carolina, Ma. North Carolina, and you would go that far away and break my heart? So I sent the tickets back. I had a little satisfaction years later when my son Pete graduated from Duke, as did 2 of my nieces, and my son Mike got his MBA there. So I got my many visits back to Duke. So when I started at Penn State, the first little bit of a challenge I ran into was talking with the other guys. I meet my new teammates, and we all start talking, and we're talking about, the subject came up of what was your high school nickname? And, who were the Tigers, who were the Bears, who were the Vikings? And it came to me, and it was the Poultry Clan. Well, when you grow up around here, you're just used to hearing that, or you were back then, the Poultry Clan. You have no idea how hilarious that was to other people. The Poultry Clan. What was your mascot? A chicken. But I told him, we liked it because it made us tougher. What was your coach's name? Nello Delalio. You're kidding me. What does Nello stand for? I don't know. Never thought about it. One kid says it sounds like an Italian curse. You Nello Delalio. So, I get by that. In my sophomore year in college, a couple of things changed. They introduced free substitution. Up until then, you went both ways. I was a 2-way end in high school. I never came off the field. So free substitution comes in where you have dedicated offensive and defensive teams. Well, I had gotten pretty good at batting passes down, which turns out wasn't a great characteristic for a tight end. So they put me on defense. So I started out as defensive end, then became a linebacker. The next thing that's happened is I hurt my knee pretty bad. And my parents were so worried about me getting hurt that I didn't even tell them. I just told them I wasn't doing real well. I had a little support system back then. My father didn't know anything about football. My brother Ron was away in the Marine Corps. So that was a tough year. By my senior year, as Bill mentioned, we transitioned from Rip Engel to Joe Paterno. So I was on Paterno's first team as head coach. That sounds nice, but you got to remember, this was before he had done anything, before he was famous. And that first year, you just felt like wringing his skinny little neck. He was tough on the team. He later wrote that in a book that he learned his first year. He was too tough on the team. My good friend Dave Rowe was our star tackle. Dave got married right before our senior year. And in the first game of the year, after the first game of the year against Maryland, after the game, Dave stays in a hotel with his wife. Well, Paterno finds out and benches him for our next game against Michigan State, who was number 2 in the country at the time. You know, Dave never forgot that. So he was a little bit brutal. But Bill mentioned that Syracuse game. That is something that stands out in my mind when I was pulling together some of this stuff out of old scrapbooks and everything. In the combined rosters of that Penn State-Syracuse game that year were 10 players who went on to substantial NFL careers, quite a few of them. On the Penn State side, there's a guy, Frank Spaziani, went on to become a defensive coordinator and head coach at Boston College. Bill mentioned Tom Coughlin on the other side. So it was quite a group back then. And I remember meeting Frank Swifty Parrish on the field. We found each other after the game. And it was really kind of surreal, you know, me in my blue and white, and he's in his white and orange, and thinking that just a few years before we had been teammates at VHS. Yeah, it was a real memorable experience. Touch a little bit on safety. Well, the other thing, athletes, sometimes you get in discussions of athletes now compared to athletes back then. Are the young guy, the athletes now really as good as, you know, in the day? Well, they certainly are. They're tremendously better. They're bigger, stronger, faster. I looked when I was going through some of this stuff, and I totaled it up. The average weight of the offensive line when I was in my senior year at Penn State was 230 pounds. The average weight of the Penn State offensive line this year was 328 pounds. I can't imagine trying to move somebody 325 pounds in a direction they don't want to go. You know, it's unbelievable. But they're different. You know, they're a little bit more self-centered, I think. And I chuckle sometimes when I think of coaches like Nello Delalio and Joe Paterno reacting to taking a knee during the national anthem and that kind of thing. Injuries, just to touch on, just share some thoughts with you on safety of football. When I go back up to Penn State and see guys I played with, it's like a medical discussion. You know, what'd you have over the past year? I got a new shoulder, got a new knee, and so on. Dave Rowe has 6 fused discs in his back and rods. And I'm standing here tonight with 2 new hips and a new knee. And my boys both played in high school. My son Pete was a quarterback. He came out okay. My son Mike got dinged a little bit. I have memories. He broke his wrist in his sophomore year. In his senior year, Moorestown got into the playoffs. Mike got a little fracture in his wrist before the playoff game against Deptford. He went to some orthopedic guy who didn't like football, who put him in a hard cast from his hand up to his elbow. He was a running back and a cornerback, and of course couldn't play with a hard cast like that. The night before the game, or a couple days before, Mike's friend was an orthopedic doctor, went into his office, and we sawed Mike's cast off and put a soft cast on his hand so he could play in the game. And every once in a while, we talk about, Mike says, Dad, you know, I can't go like this with my little finger. And I said, well, don't do that, Mike. all the people, all the friends I have, and my kids and everything, would do it all over again. Absolutely. It's an opportunity you get. It's a window period. It seems like it's a long time that you're playing sports, but when you get into your 70s, you look back on it, and it's a period of time, an opportunity this big. And the memories that created are unbelievable. It's basically from 12 to 18 years old, unless you're lucky enough to play sports in college. And to me, I learned more in sports, I honestly believe, that helped me in my career and in life in general than I ever did in the classroom. You forget a lot of your teachers' names, you forget subjects you learned and everything, but you never forget your teammates, at least not your year. And you never forget some of the memories, and it's all worthwhile. So I had the pleasure of meeting Dan Russo over at the high school earlier tonight, and I complimented him on the job he's done to turn the program around. And it's a lot of hard work. There are a lot of competing sports now, a lot more than there were back then. And you know, I told him to tell his kids on Thursday against Millville to make some memories and to go that extra 2 inches on every play, because you never know, and it won't haunt you. So I want to thank everybody again. This is just a tremendous honor for me. I can't thank you enough. And it's been great, and my memories will always be with me of VHS. Thanks a lot.
Our next inductee is Matt Maffali. He's being introduced by Hall of Fame coach John Casadia.
Okay. Thank you, Donnie. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the inductees tonight. They truly represent individuals who excelled in their sport, or in many cases, sports. And more importantly, they served as role models as athletes and as adults. And they currently serve, as I said, as role models to our VHS athletes to emulate. Debbie Anderson and her Booster Club members, thank you so much for all that you do to make this evening so special for so many. Working in the concession stands at various athletic events and venues, generating funds for all the sports at Vineland High School is truly admirable. So we thank you, Debbie, and your crew. Charlie Gaudio and Jim Dallett were Matt's coaches in high school. And I'd like to thank Coach Dallett and Coach Gaudio. You know, behind every great athlete, there are great parents. And Matt certainly was blessed with Joe and Jill. Joe and Jill. Swimming is a grueling sport. Up at 4:30 in the morning, practice 5 to 7, then come back in the afternoon for 3 or 4 more hours, and then back on Saturdays. And currently we have a group of athletes that on Sundays, they have it easy. We go to Gatone Stadium and they run approximately 10,000 steps in an hour and 15 minutes. So it's really, really a very, very grueling sport. Matt's mom and his dad carted him all over the place. And you know what? They never, ever owned a stopwatch. You see, they were his parents, and they let the coaches coach. And that's truly one of the reasons why Matt lasted as long as he did. I'm proud and humble to introduce VHS Hall of Fame inductee Matt Maffali this evening. I have known Matt since he was born. His sister Jamie swam for me and was a member of the 1996 state championship girls team that was inducted last year. His sister Jody was one of our managers. It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm thinking several pictures have to be worth several thousand words. On Matt's table is something his mom gave me when he graduated. And it is 3 pictures that serve thousands of words. Little Matt is probably 4 years old, jumping off the diving board into my arms at Dolphin Swim Club at 4. Lower left is Matt attempting to do a 25, because once you got to do a 25, then you could join the team. And the picture to the far right is Matt graduating high school. So you see, I've known Matt quite a long time. And as I said, these pictures are not only memorable, but speak volumes of our relationship. The interesting thing about Matt is that he never took himself very seriously. Actually, he wanted to play the guitar, so he taught himself how to play the guitar. To his surprise, when he told me that, I said, yeah, Matt, what kind of music, you know? He said, well, Coach, I like heavy metal. I said, doggone, Matt, so do I. And Matt was surprised. I said, yeah, I like gold and platinum myself. Matt said, no, Coach, heavy metal music. I told Matt, I'll stick to the gold and platinum. But that's Matt. Easygoing, pleasant, until he got into the pool. Matt certainly excelled in this sport. Many of his achievements are listed on the plaque that we saw in the Hall of Fame hallway tonight. Finalist in MOC's Meet of Champions, highest meet in the state, in back and fly. Anchored the swimming state championship, Meet of Champions, relay. Several Cape Atlantic championship teams, several all-star teams. It didn't come easy. But then again, what's worthwhile comes easy. He started off slow, learned how to swim, until he could swim at 25, then he joined the team. Once he joined our team and had a taste of competition, there was no stopping him. As he got older, his training intensified to double workouts. I've just mentioned it. Oftentimes he would travel 20 miles before school to a club team to practice, and then travel back to Vineland for his classes, and then back again in the afternoon. What really made Matthew different was he loved to set workout goals. Then he enjoyed destroying them. Matt consistently worked harder by making the little things better. Little things, starts, turns, technique. Kind of reminds me of what Admiral William McGravy said about little things in his comments to the graduates of the University of Tennessee at their commencement, who all aspired to change the world. The Admiral had this to say: every morning in basic SEAL training, his instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in his barracks room. And the first thing they did was inspect his bed. You see that the corners had to be square, the sheets pulled up tight, pillow centered. Extra blanket folded neatly at the bottom of his rack. He had to do it right. It had to be perfect every single day. Making his bed was a simple task, mundane at best. But every morning he was required to make his bed to perfection. To him and his fellow SEAL recruits, it seemed a little ridiculous in light of the fact that they were aspiring to be real warriors, battle-tough, hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act every single day has proven to him many times over since those early days as a SEAL recruit. You see, if you make your bed every morning, you will accomplish the first task of the day. It will give you some small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, then another, then another. By the end of the day, that one task completed will turn into many tasks completed. Making your bed will reinforce the fact that little things in life do matter. You see, if you can't get the little things right, how are you ever going to get the big things right? And if by chance you have a miserable day, you'll come home to a bed that is made, a bed you made. And a bed made will give you the encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start each day by making your bed. Matt did those little things. I'm not saying he made his bed, but he did the little things. Without ever knowing it, he changed his team. He challenged his teammates to work harder. He gained their respect. He gained their admiration, giving them the confidence that they could achieve great things if they all worked together. Matt set a standard, and they followed. He was a role model, their leader. Most of all, he made all of his teammates better people. To this day, Matt continues to challenge himself and his staff, setting high standards and goals and then working together to achieve them. As an athlete, that's exactly what he did, and he continues to do as a businessman. We live in an era where sports role models are nearly impossible to find. Our students at VHS need look no further than the Hall of Fame in the hallway at VHS to find many examples of true leaders, true role models to emulate. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with a great deal of pleasure that I present to you VHS Hall of Fame inductee, Matt Maffali.
Thank you, Coach, for those kind words. Thank you, Don, Mary, Debbie, and the VHS Booster Club for this great honor and their consideration. I know that each and every year there are amazing athletes that are submitted for this recognition, and I feel grateful to be standing up here tonight. I additionally would like to thank Coach Casadia for his hard work in putting together some of my swimming achievements so I could be part of this prestigious Vineland High alum. Also, a huge thanks to my family, dear friends, and wife, who are not only here by my side tonight, but has been there for as long as I can remember. When I was told that with this great recognition, I would be asked to say a few words, I immediately thought, what could I say in a couple minutes that would encompass what this great sport, school, and team has meant to me over the years? Oftentimes, when people refer to swimming, the word team isn't always one that immediately comes to mind. And to be honest, when I was a kid, the idea of an individual sport was something that sort of appealed to me. But then I began to really think about the network of people it took to help me receive any of the swimming achievements I accomplished in my 4 years at VHS, and I realized that list was endless. Of course, my teammates and coaches that helped push me every minute of every practice are obvious proof that this sport is anything but an individual one. But what I believe is sometimes forgotten about are that the many people that contribute to the success of any athlete, in particular to me, is a dedication and contribution that my family has had in helping me swim quickly. Whether it was bringing me to extremely early morning practices daily, having the pantry stocked with enough food to feed a small army post-workout, or to calm me down before a big race, my family has always had my back. Not only did it often bring me comfort knowing that my very supportive family were in the stands, but it also drove me to swim hard to make my parents, sisters, and brother-in-law proud as they were in the stands. As my wife, Lauren, and I started to go through some of these old news clippings, and I began to reminisce with her over the races that these articles referenced, I started to realize that there was a common theme amongst all of them. I simply swam faster in relays and when my team depended on me. There's something funny about swimming. Though you don't always get to talk to your teammates a lot during practices, the bond that occurs amongst swimmers is undeniable. Not only do I have some of the lifelong friendships from my years in the pool, when I look back at my younger years, a lot of my fondest memories all center around swimming. Swimming has taught me a lot of lifelong lessons, such as hard work does pay off, and that you have to dedicate yourself to something if you would like to be successful. And I definitely wouldn't be the person I am today without the help of my coaches, teammates, family, and this great sport. Thank you all for your support in being here tonight. It means more to me than you'll ever know. Good night.
Introducing our next inductee is Hall of Fame student athlete and Hall of Fame coach, Mr. Mike DiBiase.
This is a beautiful plaque. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank our great Booster Club for every year acknowledging the vitality of Vineland sports history, which has meant so much to so many. As stated previously, I just can just agree with everything I've heard tonight and seen over the years, and it's just wonderful to remind us all. We've all had quite a number of years of living and learned a lot of lessons, and I'm sure it would be nice for the student athletes to hear what we have to say tonight. And as Dr. Dudley said, it was a very difficult thing back a few years ago to combine all of this, and this is a great way to handle it. The role models will see what goes on in the school. A-Wing looks terrific. The weight room's terrific. I've been out of the school for 10 years now, and I can just say it looks so wonderful. And it's credit to everybody that's involved, including Donnie and the whole staff there. So I won't get into individually thanking anyone because I don't want to leave anyone out. Tonight I would like to present to you Bruce Hofstetter, a football and track field stalwart. Before I get into Bruce's honorable records, I, as his teammate, place kick holder, and old friend, would like to share a few records we held together. You have to bear with me, this is in a different vein than where we've been, just a few minutes ago. There was, in 1967, the award that Bruce and I won. It was called the most 15-cent cheeseburgers consumed at the new walk-up place on Delsey Drive. You know that one, right? The old one, the new one at the time with the golden arches, which is still flourishing to this day. It's evident that Bruce, through his Facebook page, still cherishes VHS and Vineland, all the way from his California home. And speaking for his teammates, I can say we feel the same about him. And also another record that we had was most field goals kicked over the top of Bruce's mother's house. We used to kick from the middle of the street, nice crowned road, put it right on the street, and the thought of his mom's living room window kept us focused. There was never a low kick in like 10 months of practice. She had a nice big bay window, and we didn't ever come close. Bruce kicked it over the house into the woods, and it was just a good way to keep us, wherever we were, we'd kick footballs. My house, his house, Memorial School, it didn't matter, and all beside practice. All summer long, to me, it seemed like a record anyway. All summer long, he kicked hundreds of balls at Memorial School, where the iron pipe goalposts still stand. And that reminded me the other day riding by of all the Landis and Memorial games they weren't sellouts because we didn't sell tickets, but believe me, all around the field with those low bleachers, there were 6, 8, 10 people deep all around the field. And that was for junior high games. And that's another memory that you can't replicate today. It was really great. There was as much fun and excitement as those as there was later, almost, not quite, as us playing Millville in high school and things of that nature. Whether as an AAU weightlifter, a football standout, a pro kicker, or a champion shot putter, Bruce embraced the hard work and considered it fun. He was always encouraging to his teammates during difficult times, and always ready with his wry humor, and that really helped, believe me. He was a unique teammate that we were lucky to have. Excuse me. As I said, he's come all the way from Anaheim, California, and his lovely wife, Tambra, is back in California and waiting and anticipating some nice pictures tonight, and I'm sure we can accommodate her. And it's been nice having Bruce and reminiscing with him this week. He has a semi-photographic memory when it comes to the history of Vineland sports and football and track, mostly, in addition to the other ones. And he has a great Facebook page, and many of you have told me, and I know, that you've seen all the information that he has about VHS sports in the past. So if you haven't checked it out yet, Bruce, what's the name of it?
An Unofficial History of Vineland High School Football.
Unofficial History of Vineland High School Football is his webpage, and many Vinelanders have reminisced with him and others, and check it out if you get a chance. I'll make a few words short today and say that, as I said, he was a special teammate, and all of his teammates feel the same. I'm sure I can speak for them. So let me just go over a few of his achievements. He started very young, being an excellent athlete, and I'll just make it a little short. So in 1965, he was a member of the Vineland High School unbeaten Group 4 state sectional championship in football. And you can see his jacket right over there. It's still in really good condition, which I was very envious of. He was also a member of the Group 4 conference, in the Group 4 conference, he came in second, kicking 14 extra points in 1965. I think he was a sophomore. And in 66, he was a member of Vineland High School's second consecutive unbeaten Group 4 conference and Cumberland County Championship track and field team. So it was pretty unusual for freshmen and sophomores to be on that level of achievement. In 66, he was a silver medalist, Cumberland County track meet. In 66, he was a member of Vineland High School's county championship football team. He was, in 67, his senior year, his senior year, he was a member of the Vineland High School third consecutive unbeaten Group 4 conference and Cumberland County championship track and field team, and he played a big part in all of these activities. In 1967, he was Group 4 conference shot put champion. In 1967, he was Cumberland County shot put champion. Also in 1967, he was a member of the Vineland High School football team. He set that year records for the longest field goal, 26 yards. He set records for the most field goals in a season at 2. Now you might say 2, because the way things are today. First of all, back in those days, they were rarely attempted. So to do anything with numbers like you do today was almost impossible. But whenever he was called upon, he attempted longer ones, and if he didn't make them, he was always like right at the bar. And again, he was doing this from when he was a freshman for the championship team, right through his whole career through my senior year. We have Dave Scarpa, a football standout from Vineland High, a year or so previous to me and Bruce, and he was a teammate 1 year exactly, and he held for Bruce also on his kicks, and then I followed Dave Scarpa. So there's Dave. Why don't you raise your hand or stand up, Dave. And so the records was most field goals in a season at 2, and records for most field goals in a career in a season, which was 2. He was a football All-American for WOND Radio, which ran a wide encompassing contest for that honor in 1967. So he was a football All-American there. And also in 67, he was first team All-Cumberland County football team at tackle position. In 1967 also, he was second team All-Tri-County football team as a guard. So it really was hard to get recognition in the days for linemen, as you can understand today. They did a lot of the dirty work and made the backs look good, and they didn't get many accolades. Maybe if a guard or a tackle was a huge physical specimen, people would notice him more. But if you were of average height and just excellent, it was pretty difficult for a lineman to get any credit. So it was really good back then to see him win these awards, and it still feels good today. Let me see. He was also a weightlifting champion at the annual Glassboro College Indoor Games. He was an AAU member and participated in their weightlifting contests. So we're talking about the late mid-60s, somewhere in that range, when there was no way to check or read about these things or join online. You had to be aware of them on your own. You had to prepare on your own. You had to attend on your own. You didn't get a whole lot of help. And so he really was ahead of his time. I used to go with him to a few, listen to him talk about weightlifting, learn a few things from him. We really weren't even doing any of it at Vineland High School yet in the mid-60s to late 60s. If you did a little, you did it on your own. But Bruce was almost like a savant in what he knew and could do early. So absolutely that led to his success. Just a few more accomplishments, although there are many that really we could go on and on about. In 1968, he was a member of the Vineland High School Group 4 State Sectional and Cumberland County Championship Track and Field Team. And of course, he was a letter winner, and also in 1968, he was a bronze medal winner at the Group 4 conference meet. So he had a great and consistent career. Also in 68, he was Cumberland County shot put silver medalist. In 71, he signed an NFL contract with the Dallas Cowboys as a kicker. In 1971, he set the Western Football League record for longest field goal made of 52 yards. And I think that was out of California, that league. And that really doesn't surprise me because he could do that his junior year in high school. And he could do it regularly. But as I said, again, we just didn't get that many attempts. That's just not the strategies that were employed back in the 60s, as you can imagine. I said that one, excuse me. In 71, he also set the WFL record, which is the Western Football League, for the longest average field goal distance. Average in professional football. It was like the minor leagues, and his average was 42.6 yards. So that still would be good today. And some of the rules were changed. The goalposts were different. Putting the ball on a tee, it was a different thing than in many places today for field goals, not for kickoffs. All made, a very precarious profession to follow. And I think Bruce will talk more about that. And I found it sad that as great as he was at that point, the competition as tough as it was, he told me that, you know, he had to get a job. He had to go to work because he just couldn't wait to get the big call. He wasn't independently wealthy, and like all of us, he had to roll his sleeves up and go to work. And so I'm sure that dream is still, you know, in his head and on his pillow now and then, but he's had a rich, full life, and I'd like to introduce to you, it's my pleasure, Bruce Hofstetter. This is yours, Bruce. I guess that'll stay. Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Wow, it's really great to be back in Jersey. I hadn't been back here since 1993 for my 25th class reunion. Pardon me. I was here in '88 for my 20th reunion. I moved out of Vineland in August of '69 and went to California for a free education, which they offered at that time, and to hopefully play professional football. Actually, I kind of want to share just a couple of things that was difficult for me in kicking, and that is basically just walking on, asking for a tryout. My first practice in football camp under Bill Gaynor in 1965, I was the first one suited up. And as I was exiting the locker room, Mike Homiak said, hey, sophomore, grab a piece of equipment and take it out. Because sophomores, you know, we take the equipment out, we bring it in. That was just the tradition at Vineland High. Also the tradition at Vineland High, actually at the time, was most sophomores kind of balked at that. And they had to be, you know, encouraged to do that. So when he said, hey, sophomore, grab a piece of equipment and take it on out, I looked over, and the first thing I saw was a bag of balls. And I knew kicking tees were in there, so I grabbed the heaviest piece of equipment we had at that time was a bag of balls and the kicking tees, and I ran out that locker room. And Mike had this look on his face like, what's wrong with that guy? He looks like he's enjoying this. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything to him. But I wanted to get out there, and I wanted to set a ball up at about 25, 30 yards out and just start kicking. I want to say about a coach I had in junior high, Landis Junior High. His name was Chuck Neely. He was my track coach. And at that time, I'd already started lifting weights, and I was pumping weights pretty heavily going into the track season, and I wasn't getting any kind of distance, either my discus or my shot. And so he was also my gym teacher, and he was like two different personalities. He was a teacher, but then after school and track started, his door would open up, he'd light up a cigarette, you could go in, you could call him Chuck. It was just really, him and Coach Kosh were the two that had the most influence in my life. So we basically said, you know, you need to set the weights aside and not overtrain, and the results will speak for themselves. And at Landis Junior High, I broke the shot put record 3 times, the discus record once. I was the second highest scorer and the MVP. And I thought I would have a pretty good launch going into Vineland High with legendary Coach Kosh, and who hadn't seemed, well, actually the last dual meet he had lost was in '64 by just a few points. So, you know, we're -- track team pretty much in the state at that time, so that was something I was really looking forward to. But getting back to the football thing, so I'm on the field, kicking it. I also had forgotten my square toe that day on purpose. I just wanted to show the coach what I could do with just a regular old kicking shoe, or the regular old football shoe. Chuck Neely also told me, you know, when you're out there in the athletic field, kind of like keep your mouth closed and just perform. Your performance should speak for itself. This is what I want. This is what I went with when I went out onto that field. So I'm out there about 10, 15 minutes waiting for the other team. And by this time, I'm about out 40 yards. Coach Gaynor starts, I see him out there. Suddenly he starts walking to me pretty quick. And he opens up his clipboard. He says, who are you? He says, I'm Hofstetter and I'm from Landis Junior High. I'm a sophomore. Goes, oh, okay. What else do you play? Because back then, like Mike said, you're no specialist. You're a kicker. Well, what else do you do? I'm a lineman. I was a lineman out of Landis. I played guard, played defensive tackle. But I'm kind of a small guy then. Norman Danziger was much bigger than me. Danny Grady was much bigger than me. Nate Murray was much bigger than me. They were all bigger than me, at least in the line. So he goes, our field was unmarked. Grass was pretty much already dead, just stones, rocks, the kind of stuff that trains football players. He says, you know how far distance this is? That's about 40 yards. He goes, yeah, that's 40 yards. And I said, well, if I had my square toe today, Coach, I could probably be back up about another 10 or 15 yards. And also, all this heavy line gear is bothering me. And he just kind of gave me this look, and he opened his clipboard, and he made a note down, and he said, anything you need, you get from Dom Zapparello, the equipment manager. So I said, okay. So that afternoon, I went back to Dom, who promptly turned me down and said, you need an okay from the coach. And I said, well, I have an okay from the coach. He goes, well, I didn't hear from the coach. And Coach Chapman was walking by that time, and he says, hey, Coach, this guy says he needs all kinds of new gear. And I didn't know that Chapman was watching me either, but he just kind of, aren't you Hofstetter? Actually, he used to always call me Hofster. He said, hey, aren't you Hoster? Yeah. Hey, Dom, give him anything he wants. So the first thing I did was lose my girdle pads and my thigh pads and my knee pads and my shoulder pads and got backs pads, even though I was playing line. And I wore low cuts, which is a real no-no with Coach Gaynor. So he sees me in the afternoon and he kind of looked at me and says, you turned in a lot of gear. Yeah. And you're a lineman. Yeah. And you're not a big lineman. No. And he's just eyeballing me, and I can kind of sense where he's going. And I said, well, you know, Coach, I can take a hit as well as I can give one. And let's see what happens this season. So he said, okay. At that time, previous year, Vineland had 2 kickers. Jay Pagano beat Woodrow Wilson in game 2 with a 3-0 field goal in '64. And he had the record. I mean, like Mike said, you just didn't go along the lines of field goal kicking. This probably came from the Nello Delalu era, where his philosophy was, if you're close enough to kick a field goal, you're close enough to score a touchdown, which the level and quality of player from that time was probably pretty true, since we remember him a lot from the 50s, but he did start coaching Vineland High in '35, and he was the coach of the 37, 38, 39 championship teams. So with Coach Gaynor willing to try field goals, I thought he was an excellent special teams coach. He could have coached at the professional level. When I was with Dallas in their minor league organization, their special teams coach was okay, but Coach Gaynor, it wasn't just the extra points. It's how you bow the line. It's how your linemen block down and interlock ankles. It all starts with the center and a quick snap. And in my opinion, the hardest position in that would be the holder. He's on his knee. He's got to get the ball. Everybody's crashing in on him. And sometimes kickers kick a little high, and you got to put tape on that holder's hand or something like that. So to me, it's Dave Scarpa. It's Mike DiBiase. They're the guys that put it on there. All I did was kick it. They had the toughest job in my opinion. Thanks, guys, for making me look good. Clem Jones is another one of my teammates. We go back to Landis Junior High, football and track under Coach Quacharo. He's in the Hall of Fame, great friend. I have a lot of friends here that just go back so far. I've met some new friends. I've been following folks. I'm so glad Robert Kling's here tonight. He broke most of my records. The kid's a great kicker, and I stream a lot of the games, you know, and when I see it, being a kicker, it's like, oh, come on, Vaughn, come on, Vaughn. And the last year and a half with Robert in there, it was just such a pleasure to watch Vineland High School football. I got to get on back east there about 3 hours early, so, you know, I make sure I get home and start to stream it, and it was just great, just great. So, Jay Pagano had kicked it back. Kind of rambling here. I have some notes, but I'm not really. And he didn't last the rest of that year. Tony Torelli took over for the rest of the year. So in '65, Tony's the #1 kicker, and that's the way he starts out. So we go through into the Camden game, and Tony was an All-South Jersey, All-Group 4 Conference fullback. Tony beat out some guy from Rancocas Valley by the name of Franco Harris. Some of you may have known about him, I don't know. But that shows the level of Tony's ability. One more incident on that first day of practice. We have a drill which we call the nutcracker. You lay a tackling dummy down, defensive man gets here, you have an offensive man, you have a ball carrier. Coach blows the whistle, it's up to the defensive man to stick the guard, hit the ball carrier. No, there's to be no gain. My sophomore year, I'm 5'10", I'm maybe 200 soaking wet in a uniform. The guy opposite me is Otis Reeves, 6'2", 225. He's a senior starting tackle. He's badass, okay? Behind him is two-ton Tony Torelli, 6'1", 215, all South Jersey, and the little sophomore, Bruce Hofstetter. Coach blows the whistle. I get up, remove the chunk of dirt from my mouth, looking through my ear hole of my helmet, I turn that around, redo my face mask, notice that the tackling dummies are way up there, Tony's way down there, and I'm just like, and the coach looks at me, Hofster, that just will not get it. So the rest of my sophomore year, I just wanted to improve in that drill. And toward the end of the year, instead of being pushed 20 yards down the field by Big O and Tony Torelli, I was only 10 yards down the field, which kind of prepared me for my next 2 years, and I guess I improved, because here I am. And then, so I started kicking in the Camden game. History repeats itself. I was a sophomore in Gatone Stadium. My first kick was blocked. This year, I watched Carly Kling in Gatone Stadium as a sophomore. Her first kick is blocked. My second kick was good. Her second kick was good. So yes, history does repeat itself. I also want to give a shout out to her. She's the first female kicker. She kicked 5 extra points in 1 game. And yeah, give it up for Carly. Come on. I tell you folks, kicking a football may look easy, but it's not. It's not easy at all. It takes a lot of practice. I started kicking when I was 10, simply because I saw an AFL football game with an end zone camera, and the way that ball came up through the goalpost, I just said to myself, I would like to do that. So by the time I hit that kicking tee at VHS the first time, I'd already had 8 years kicking footballs, pretty much all on my own. I had a bag of balls. I had a ball anywhere from the top notch all the way down to the cheapest you could possibly get, because I wanted to be able to kick any kind of football as well as I could. Mike had mentioned kicking in my yard. I want to thank my dad. I had a basketball goal that I never used, but the frame for it was a perfect goalpost. And I said, tear the basketball thing down. I don't play basketball, I'm into that. He says, well, what do you want to do with the frame? I said, well, I don't know. He says, well, you know, it's an H shape. It's a goalposts are H shape. Why don't we just take that frame and move it out onto that field, and you can kick on it? I said, okay. And we did that. Now, I didn't measure it till, actually, I already graduated Vineland High. I was going to Westchester State because I never knew. But I measured it. It was only 15 feet wide and with a 12-foot crossbar. And it was a natural net behind it of evergreen trees in our yard. So once it went over the house and then over the goalpost and into the trees, you know, and I needed a bag of balls because lots of times my balls would get caught up in the trees and I'd be up there trying to poke it out, you know, so it was just a lot of fun, doing that, and yeah, it brought a relaxing moment when pressure kicks. Lenape, we beat 7-6 in my junior year. Cumberland County round 1 in Bridgeton that year. We beat Bridgeton in the waning moments, 14-13. They had scored. We were down. They kicked the ball off to Butch Denby. They had a good kickoff. It bounced off once. He caught it in the end zone. I was on the wedge, so I'm looking back. I'm waiting for him to try to, and he fumbles it. And he picks it up and he fumbles it again. And 3 or 4 Bulldogs just go blowing right by me. Game's over. That's it. And the next thing you know, there goes Butch down the sideline, and there he goes. Hey, he's going to go all the way. And now it's 13-13. It's like, oh, yeah, now it's my turn. So we get in the huddle, and usually Dave Scarpa would say, extra point attempt on go. This time, he says, extra point on go. Everybody at that point was just so, I guess, automatic. My brother here will be inducting Ronnie Matalucci later, told me on the radio that Dick Schindler just went nuts. Vineland wins, Vineland wins, Vineland wins, Vineland wins. And I forgot who the color commentator was, but he had told him, hey, Dick, there's this small thing called the extra point that needs to be kicked first. Oh, don't worry, it's good. Hofstetter never misses. It's good. Vineland wins. See, I just told you, Vineland wins 14-13. And on the way home from the bus, it finally had hit me. And Steve had got up. We had won 3 games that year by a grand total of 4 points. We beat Lenape 7-6, we beat Atlantic City 8-6, we beat Bridgeton 14-13. We finished 6-2-1 with a Cumberland County championship. So special teams play is a big part of football. Ed mentioned earlier a 7-6 loss. I heard that game on the radio, broke my heart. Only a couple years before, we would have had Marty Mazitis. That would have been a guaranteed tie game at least. Another kicker who is known really as automatic. A guy I saw kick, my brother had started playing in the band in 1958, and I saw a game and saw Marty kick, and it was just reinforced the idea of wanting to be, a good kicker. So I get to California, and again, the hardest part's always walking on or trying out. It was hard at Vineland, but it warmed me up. I was working in Knott's Berry Farm at the time, taking tickets at the main gate. My supervisor had brought a paper to me. He says, hey, I heard through the grapevine, through the department here, that you were a pretty good athlete in high school and you were a kicker. And I said, well, who gave you that wrong information? He kind of laughed at me. And he just tossed this thing on the table there, and he said, you might be interested in this. And a gentleman by the name of Ben Agajanian had been running a kicking clinic at a Long Beach Veterans Stadium for years, always looking for talent. And I just looked at that and I thought, I'm still kicking, I'm still pumping iron, I'm still working out, I do want to play football. Washing out of Westchester State, that's a whole different story in itself, but I'll just go see what I can do. So I went down there that Tuesday night, and it's like, wow, these guys are serious. San Francisco 49er kicker, Ray Werging was there. UCLA kicker, Zenon Andrews-Sishin was there. USC kicker, Ronnie Ayala was there. Several other minor league kickers were there. The Orange County Rhinos had a pretty good kicker, Butch Tatley. The LA Mustangs had a real good kicker, Jock Pauly, and they're all there. And they all gather around. Ben Agajanian blows his whistle. There were also scouts usually going in and out of there. Ollie Matson was our league commissioner, so he hung around there a lot, and he was a scout for the Eagles. Ben was a scout for the Cowboys and the Rams at the time. So, and I kind of didn't know all that. It just that, wow, there's some quality here. I just want to see what I can do. So I will go out on the field, and they're all, Coach Blows says, okay, we're about ready to start here. And I said, hey, can I get a fair shot at that tee? And they all kind of look at me and kind of look around and say, who's this guy? So Ben goes, sure, it's always open. And your name is? Bruce Hofstetter, come from Vineland, New Jersey. Hey, great, well, who are you? So we start kicking, and we never did extra points. We always started at least on the 30 yards out, right hash mark, and he had a scoring system. I don't remember how Ben did it. And then we moved to the next hash mark. We just keep going back till we all missed 3 attempts. And usually that was somewhere with our group between 55, 60 yards. So at the end of that first session, he blows to us, okay, guys, here's the score. Third is Ayala, second is Andrews-Sishin, and first is Hofstetter. And they all kind of look at me. I just thought, the luck of the draw. Next week, same thing. Second and third guys are different, but I'm number 1 again in the scoring, however he scored it. I just remember he gave you more points as you made it field goal from farther back. And the big thing in the NFL, they were looking at that time for long distance accurate field goal kickers, and that's what I wanted to be. So it's the 3rd week of the kicking clinic, and I went again. And as I'm walking off, I get approached by a Dallas Cowboy scout, and he wants to know when I graduated college. And I said, well, I had dropped out of college because I came out here to go to college for free, but that's not really working out too well either. But I should graduate in 72 if I were to. He said, oh, well, what the rules are, until your class graduates, we can't really touch you, you being an NCAA and all like that. I said, well, I'm not NCAA. He goes, what? Didn't you play football at Westchester? I said, no, I washed out of that, but I got serious into weightlifting, and AAU runs weightlifting more than NCAA. So I signed up as an AAU competitor. So I told him that. I said, so I have no association whatsoever with the NCAA. Well, that just makes it easy. Here, sign this waiver, sign here, sign here, sign here. So I did all that, and then played 2 years with the California Razorbacks. They were a minor league affiliate of the Dallas Cowboys. We had 4 guys under contract. Myself, our middle linebacker, Reno Bellamy from Montana, our center, our short snap center, Mac Umulau, played had a full football scholarship to the University of Hawaii. He was a very interesting individual. He played barefoot. He had a look on his face like he was about ready to run his head through a brick wall and was about ready to do it. one of the funniest things I remember in a locker room one day, he was an incessant cigarette smoker, and we're about ready to get, so he's puffing away on a cigarette, and he throws his shoulder pads on, and he goes to put his shoulder, my brother had reminded me about this story, it was really funny. He goes to put his jersey on, and his cigarette gets caught, and it goes up his nose. He got the filter up his nose and lighted in, and his jersey's half on, and his smoke's starting to come out, and he's screaming and yelling, and so we all were kidding about how we're going to train him how to put on a football uniform properly, and it's choice language and stuff. But he was great. He had signed with Dallas. I was with Dallas. Reno was with Dallas. Ronnie Ayala, who came out of USC, he had signed with San Diego. Our punter was being looked at, but he was severely injured in the first game, and so they kind of shined him on. So I played 2 years there, waiting for a call. Dallas. The team picture had Mike Clark in it. No, the team picture had Tony Fritsch in it, but they used Mike Clark in the Super Bowl. So they weren't sure about their kicking situation either, and they're going from straight on to soccer style. I also get a heads up that in 1974 there's going to be massive changes to the kicking game. Goalposts will be moved to the end line. You will kick off from the 35 now. The hash marks are going to be moved in closer. If you miss a field goal from a long distance now, the ball will be spotted to where you kicked it from, not on the 20. That just killed the long-distance field goal kicker in the NFL for several years. Soccer-style kickers were everything's coming in soccer style. They had told me I was probably a better kicker, but the soccer-style, weird-sounding name kickers are going to sell more tickets. Football had now become a professional business in addition to a sport, and it's the names that's going to sell tickets. They want to cut back on kicking because up until then, you had kickers trying field goals 4 or 5 times a game, making a couple of them, and fans just didn't want to pay that kind of money just to simply watch kicking. Like Mike said, I needed to get a job, so what I did after that for 18 years was drive a gasoline tanker truck and trailer in the Southern California area. Started at 3 in the morning. Lots of times that was really hard to do that. What kept me going, guys, was my remembrances of my time here, my teammates here, my accomplishments here. That's all well. What really meant the most to me was my relationships with my teammates. They still do today. All this is great, but it's me and Mike DiBiase, and me and Clem Jones, and me and Robin Daplin, and me and Dave Scarpa, Robert Kling now, his sister Carly. And by the way, my number with California was number 13. They had 13, and the coach says, oh, nobody will wear this except Hofstetter. And he throws it to me, and I loved it, and I got my 52-yarder that year up in San Fernando Valley. Those guys were Ed Gabriel size and bigger. They're out there doing this, 52 yards out, and I see 2 little tips of toothpicks, because the goalposts were different then. Kind of looked down, well, it's about here. Let's just wing it down there. And it was good. Field judge came back, said, that probably would have been good from 57, and it might even be a league record. So that surprised me, and I didn't find out to the end of the year. But that's kind of about it for football. Real quick on track and field. In my time with Coach Kosh, we only lost 1 dual meet in 3 years. I had placed first or second in 19 of 23 dual meets. I was one of the smallest shot putters in the conference, if not the smallest. I was also, going back to football real quick, the smallest starting defensive tackle in the entire Group 4 conference. The Atlantic City game, the quarterback was 6'1" and 215. He was bigger than I was. First play, I got chopped low, I got chopped high. Fullback was blocking, he runs over me. I got 3 big Atlantic City guys on me. I see the ball carrier coming. I get out a finger. I catch his shoelace, that makes a tackle. And from then on, I just really fell in love with pit play. Give the other team the ball, put me in the middle. I want to hit people. I enjoyed high-speed collisions, receiving them and giving them. Even as much as I love kicking footballs, probably, I think for a real true football player, it's about the hits, the tackles. Well, especially with the Razorbacks, we'd come off on the sideline, and it wasn't like, hey, you did this. It was like, you hit him good. You blocked him good. That was a perfect tackle. I earned my keep with them because there was one play. I was severely clipped. I got the guy's number. We got up. I usually played safety, and I said, I'm going down this time. I'm not going to play safety. I need somebody else to play safety. No, you need to play safety. You have no thigh pads, no hip pads, no knee pads. I bought my shoulder pads in a toy store. I cut the flaps off of them. I had a helmet with a single bar. I never wore a chin strap. I really had no protection. But I had that guy in my sight, and I went down there and paid back a debt. And from then on, I was received differently by my special teams, because suddenly here's a kicker. We have a kicker on this team that is willing to go down there and mix it up. And our team, the special teams name changed from then. The entire league either called us the Suicide Squad or the Crash Crew, because they have a kicker who's a headhunter and he's looking to make a tackle. And I just felt proud really about that, not just kicking the ball and just letting my teammates kind of go for that. Like I said, I want to thank my dad for putting up those goalposts. Thank my brother for how many times we went out to Memorial. Thank Mike DiBiase. It was his encouragement, his motivation that got us started early in the '67 season. He came over one day and says, well, we need to start kicking. Oh, really? Well, you know, football season's 3 months away. And so we did. And yeah, his encouragement, his motivation was a big thing for me. And a big reason why I had succeeded that year. Yeah, all the championship teams I've been on. Tony DeTomo, want to mention him? He taught me drop kicking. One of the things that I got the scouts' attention in that original tryout in California, I kicked a couple, to loosen up, I kicked a couple drop kicks from about 25, 30 yards out. And the scouts kind of took notice of that, because nobody drop kicks anymore. So, and then Vineland continues. We had a kicker this year, Robert Aparicio, who kicked off, I believe, left-footed and kicked his extra points right-footed. I thought that was pretty cool, pretty unique. Because the kid says my left leg is more power, and my right leg is more accurate. And yeah, it's, as Ed had said, I had been in circles. What's your mascot's name? Poultry Clan? Huh, what? Poultry Clan. Oh, what's that? It's a chicken. Well, it's a rooster. No, you know what, really? It's a fighting gamecock. And he's got his talons sharpened, and he's ready to go. Were you guys any good? And then I started telling him about none of this, just the history. 29, undefeated. 1930, undefeated. 1939, undefeated state champs. 1955, undefeated state champs. 1965, undefeated state champs. Milt Plum, Randy Beverly, Lou Picone, Franco Harris, Breeson Maynard. I could go on and go on and on. All, Dave Robinson, all played their high school football in southern New Jersey. The game of American football, folks, started in southern New Jersey. In 1869, Rutgers played Princeton. 1894, Vineland played Millville. 1988, I'm getting in my tanker. Here's USA Today. Special feature, oldest high school football rivalries in the nation. Really? I cut loose with a quarter just to read that, and I open it up, and listed number 2 in the entire nation is Vineland versus Millville. Now, Facebook has come out since. Wikipedia has been out. I put this up, and everybody from the Northeast is on me. No way. So I really checked this out. Okay, we're not second. We're 4th, maybe 5th, but the key word is we are continuous. The game between Millville and Vaughan since 1894 was never interrupted. There are some high schools that actually go back to 1878, something like that. I mean, you know, it's 1869, so, but they broke. Some of them broke for World War II and World War I. Some broke entirely. So we all have been blessed with Vineland here, with its super rich historical, athletic history. I'm so proud and honored to be a part of that. I'm honored to be inducted here tonight. Thank you so much. I feel I'm not worthy. I just want to end real quick. I want to thank God. He gave me my talent. He blessed me. He kept me safe all this time. I want to thank all my coaches that I've had. I mentioned Kosh, I mentioned DeTomo, I mentioned Gaynor and Chapman. Great guys, great coaches. My teammates, they were great teammates. What we have here going now with Vineland, with Dan Russo and the committee and the athletic department and Don and his job, it's great. It's great to see it back up on the rise again, and I'm just thrilled to be part of it, folks. And I just want to thank you again so much for inducting me. Thank you.
Mrs. Donna Brenner is going to be introducing her daughter, Christina Brenner Kulik, our next inductee.
Thank you. Hi. Before I start, I just want to thank the Booster Club for this honor. This is a great club. I used to be a member, and when I walked in, and half the people in here were in it then, I took Nellie's number. She has mine. You might be seeing me back. Good evening. My name is Donna Brenner, and I am the mother of inductee Christina Brenner Kulik. 30 years ago, a little baby girl was born, and we were unsure where our life would go. But we know pretty early on that she wasn't going to be a girly girl. She wasn't interested in the frilly clothes or in playing with dolls. Give her a ball, a bat, a glove, some grass or dirt, and that was where she wanted to go. She always wanted to be outside, to be active. When she was 5 years old, we signed her up at the Vineland Soccer Association. At that age, girls and boys played on the same team. There were plenty of boys, but on her team there were only 2 girls. Christina loved to play soccer. By the end of that first season, the other girl had moved on to different things, but Christina was still there. And not only was she still there, but she outplayed, outran, outscored, and was more aggressive than all of the boys. I believe she even made an occasional boy cry. She continued to play soccer and eventually joined the Vineland Lightning, a travel soccer team where she scored many goals and learned all her skills. Eventually, she entered Vineland High, where she was a 4-year starter, scoring 16 goals her freshman year and earning recognition for her play, including Cape Atlantic first team recognition. When she was 5 years old, we also signed her up for the North Vineland Little League Softball League. Christina began her career playing t-ball and advancing through the levels. It didn't take long to see that softball was going to be her first love. She listened and learned all aspects of the game. Christina practiced in the backyard along with her father and brother for hours. She played for North Vineland Little League for many years and played on many all-star teams. I believe Christina may have played every position on the field. Christina eventually joined an ASA travel team, improving her skills and maturing in her game. When she entered high school, she joined the Vineland High softball team. She started on the varsity as a bench player, but soon moved forward as a starter. She became a valuable member of the team and played second base for the 4 years she was at Vineland High. She reached 100 hits and 100 stolen bases in her junior year, and she was the first player to achieve that status. The stolen base record stands until today. Christina was named All-South Jersey first team and Cape Atlantic first team several times. She was All-State third team several times. Christina was the Daily Journal Softball Player of the Year in her senior year. She was the Atlantic City Press Softball Player of the Year in her senior year. She was named to the Philadelphia Inquirer All-Star First Team. She participated in the Senior All-Star Game in 2005. Christina was runner-up for the Daily Journal Female Athlete of the Year in her senior year. And on top of all the athletic awards, Christina graduated from Vineland High School as an honor student. After graduation from Vineland High School, she attended Rowan University, where she continued her softball career. Christina was a 4-year starter in the outfield. She was New Jersey Athletic Conference Rookie of the Week in 2006. She was named All New Jersey Athletic Conference in 2006, 2008, and 2009. Christina was also named All Region in 2006, 2008, and 2009. Despite all her athletic awards, more importantly, she graduated with honors with a degree in education. After she graduated from Rowan University, Christina returned to her hometown and accepted a teaching position at Veterans Memorial Middle School and has been teaching math ever since. She also had one other dream that became a reality in 2009. Christina applied and was named a Phillies ball girl for 2 seasons. Not only did she sit on the field and catch foul balls, but she took part in many, many charitable events. She even got to meet her own baseball star, Darren Dalton. In 2011, she was named assistant coach for the Vineland softball team. In 2014, Christina was named head coach of the softball team. In the past 3 years, the team has improved, getting steadily better, and their future is bright. In 2016, the Vineland softball team won the prestigious Rancocas Valley Tournament. They were runner-up for the West Chapter 5 Umpire Association Sportsmanship Award. They were only 1 vote shy. Christina organized and implemented VHS softball hitting clinic for the youth of the community. Additionally, the softball team volunteers every year to help at the Challenger Baseball League for the disabled children of our area. Christina was born in Vineland, grew up in Vineland, attended school in Vineland, and returned to Vineland to work and coach. What a wonderful role model for the young women of this city. Not only is she showing them how to play softball, but she's showing them by example how to be a strong woman. She is showing them that it's possible to get a good education, set goals, and obtain those goals. And she is showing them that an important part of life is giving back. Christina reminds her players that it is important to remember your roots, the people, and in this case, school, who supported you on your road to success, and to come back and give others that same support. Christina believes in her town and her school and wants to help more young women find their own path through softball. While at Rowan University, Christina met a young man from Marlton, and he turned out to be her soulmate and is now her husband. Ryan is a fine athlete, fine man, who stands behind Christina's accomplishments. They just became parents 2 weeks ago and are now embarking on that adventure together. And I'm a grandma. Sports will always be a big part of the Brenner and Kulik households. The future looks bright. I'm sure Christina has guided more than one young woman in their journey of life after high school, and she is not done. Her family is very proud of her, and I'm sure that she will continue to give us all reasons to smile and be proud. With the pride and love of her father, Eugene, her brother, Jeffrey, her husband, Ryan, her son, Braden, and myself, I am proud to introduce to you Christina Brenner Kulik.
Thank you, Mom, for that heartfelt introduction. This is a special day, and I feel privileged to be here. I want to start by thanking the VHS Booster Club and the VHS Athletics Department for recognizing my accomplishments. I am humbled to be nominated for such a prestigious honor as a VHS Hall of Fame inductee. I would also like to congratulate the other inductees who are here today. It's an honor to be going into the hall with such an outstanding group. I'd like to make this speech recognizing and thanking the people who played such a vital role in my athletics career, because I truly believe I was blessed to have some very special people play a part in my story. From the very beginning, my family played a key role. I'd like to thank my parents, Donna and Eugene, for fostering my love of sports from a very young age. Also, I'd like to thank my brother Jeffrey, who spent a lot of his time at many of my softball and soccer games. My parents always stressed the importance of having fun and being a part of a team, which now as an adult, I can reflect on and value even more. As I grew older and began to excel athletically, they signed me up for travel ball teams, which I now know is such a huge commitment time-wise and financially. I truly appreciate these sacrifices they had to make in order for me to compete at a higher level of play. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank them for practically making every home and away game in high school and college. You don't know how much it meant for me to see you in the stands. Next, I'd like to thank my high school coaches here at VHS that not only taught me so much about the sports of softball and soccer, but taught myself and my teammates life lessons that we were able to take with us after high school. For soccer, I was fortunate enough to play for both Joe and his daughter Amy Ardito, as well as a former colleague of mine at Memorial School, Joe Morello. I have such fond memories of playing soccer here at VHS. Not only were we so talented, but I was able to make lifelong friends that I still keep in touch with to this day. During my softball career here, I played for Jamie Burgos, and I cannot thank him enough for his ability to completely transform me as a player in just 4 short years. Coach Burgos taught me so much about the game and developed me into a player who was mentally tough. He had the highest of expectations for all of his athletes, and he created a competitive environment that I had never been exposed to before. I truly believe that my career here at VHS was influenced by his intense style of coaching and gave me the tools needed to go on and have a successful career in college. After high school, I went on to Rowan University, go Profs, where I was introduced to a dedicated coaching staff and teammates that would make college softball some of my favorite years of my life to date. I am thankful for the Vineland Public Schools educational system and athletics programs that provided me with the tools in order to be successful at Rowan University. Continuing on, I was able to combine my passion of softball and Philadelphia sports by becoming a Philadelphia Phillies ball girl for the 2010 and 2011 seasons. This was truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience that I'm extremely grateful for. After college, I was fortunate enough to come back to my hometown and was hired as a math teacher at Veterans Memorial School, where I still teach, and as well as an assistant coach to the program that gave so much to me, the Vineland High School softball program. After 4 years as an assistant, the head job opened up here at Vineland, and I remember having the conversation with my parents and my husband about applying for the position. I'm so thankful that they encouraged me, and I decided to take that leap and take over the program. Being the head coach has been such a fulfilling experience for me, and I have truly cherished the past 3 years. I'd like to thank my athletes and assistant coaches that trusted me and believed in my coaching and training abilities. It was always my hope that I could share the positive experiences I've had with my athletes, and they too will go on and have similar experiences after graduation. Also, I'd like to thank the community, the athletic department, specifically Don Robbins, and the Vineland Public Schools Board of Education that has always been so supportive of our program. Lastly, my love and thanks goes out to my husband Ryan, who has been the most supportive spouse and teammate. Since we met, he has always been the encouraging and positive voice in my ear, pushing me to be my best self. Ryan, I'd like to thank you for the consistent support and optimistic attitude. Just 2 weeks ago, on November 6th, Ryan and I welcomed the newest member of our Kulik team, Braden Ryan. I can't wait to embark on our next adventure of parenthood together. Again, I'd like to thank everyone, specifically Debbie Anderson and the Hall of Fame committee, who played such an important part for making this night so special for all the inductees. Thank you, and go Fighting Clan.
Mr. Glenn Hofstetter is going to introduce our posthumous inductee, Mr. Ron Matalucci. Glenn Hofstetter.
Well, hello, Clan supporters, members, athletes, friends. I'm really glad to be here. You're probably wondering, what do I have to do with Ron Matalucci? Some of you folks played with some of these stars. Some of you coached them. My claim is I was in the band. I was in the band, and sitting in the band, you got to see a lot of people run up and down Gatone Stadium. You probably remember me. I was the one without the hat in the band. No, I never played any sports with Ron, but because of that, I did get to watch a lot of good people. Ron and I met at Mrs. Kisselbrink's school in 1949. So we last longer together than anybody else. That's where Ron and I found out that because of our colorful language, what soap tastes like. He preferred lava, I liked ivory. Now it's 69 years later. Many high school individual personal stats from that period of time are really not available. When you go back, we didn't have computers watching things, and so almost all of them are impossible to find. So what I tried to do is put together a list of some of Ron's career highlights at Vineland High School so you know a little bit more about him. So we'll start with football. He was a starting member of both the 1959 and 1960 Group 4 state championship football teams. He was the starting quarterback on the 60 squad. He was selected All-South Jersey team. He was also honorable mention All-State. Not bad. What about basketball? Ron lettered in basketball in 59 and 60. He was a team high scorer in both years. That's okay too. What about track? In 1927, a fella in northern Jersey ran an unofficial, but it was considered a record, time in the 100-yard dash of 10-1. That was 1927, 10-1, 10-1. At that time, that was a state and national high school record in this country. And it remained a world-class time for any runner at any level all the way up to the mid-50s. Uh, 34 years after that magnificent 1927 record was set, Ron Matalucci was the first to tie it. Ron was a starting member of both the 1959 and the 1960 Group 4 championship track and field teams. He ran the 100, 220-yard sprints and also long jumped. To give you an idea what that means today, as you know, we are in meters now instead of yards. The current junior Olympic record for an 18-year-old male is 10-3 in the 100-yard dash. Ron's record in 60 was 10-1. In 1960, at a Group 4 Southern State Championship track meet at Bader Field, Atlantic City, Ron ran a 9.9 second 100. This was on a poorly prepared, well-worn cinder track that was damp. At that time, there would have been a United States record for all high schoolers, and the only other better time ever listed for a 100-yard dash in this state was in 1972 by a guy named Ed James. He ran a 9.7. Unfortunately for Ron, the day he ran his 9.9, there was a backwind that exceeded allowable record conditions. The 100-yard was replaced later with 100 meters, as you know today. I think that was 1976. And so all 100-yard records are frozen now. Ron will always have that record. To give you an idea what that record meant, Frank Budd was running the 100-yard dash as a senior, I think at Villanova, and he was running 9.2. So that's very, very quick in those days. I asked Ron once if he could match under regular conditions that 9.9, and he said, well, I know my legs will work. If the air will just get the hell out of the way, I'll be fine. So we don't never know if that would have happened, but he had a good sense that it might. Now, these records that he did, these letters that he won were all accrued in only 2 years. Ron was only here, a junior and senior. He came to Vineland High from Bordentown Military School, where he also lettered. After he graduated, he and I decided to go all the way across the country together. He had a 1962 Chevrolet Impala Supersport, very nice. I had a 1949 Chevrolet with 83,000 miles on it. So we decided we would take my Chevy. Well, I told you I wasn't an honor student. And this is where we got to talk a lot about high school, and it's where I found out a lot about what sports here meant for Ron. And I found out it was never about him. He never talked about his own records, his own games, anything like that. It was always about his coaches, the fun he had, the guys he played with, and the guys he played against. You could see that sports did really good things for Ron Matalucci. At some point on our way back home from California to New Jersey, we found ourselves in Central Florida. I'm not an honor student. I had a gas credit card, and between us we had about 93 cents, literally. We had less than $1 in pennies, and we were saving it because it cost 50 cents to cross the Delaware Memorial Bridge then. And we paid it in pennies. Guy was really pissed, too, as we counted them out. Anyway, we didn't have any money. I had this gas card, and we hadn't eaten for a long time. So I said to him, I got an idea. There's a restaurant over there up the hill, and that was important because we weren't sure the car would always start. So we just parked the car at the top of the hill so we could roll it down if it wouldn't start. And I found this restaurant that had a boys' restroom with a window in the back, and I suggested we go in and steal the meal. That we go eat it and then run out the back room, the back door or the back window, get in the car, drive down the hill and run away. That was my thought. And Ronnie talked me out of it. He talked me out of that day, and we found a way to earn enough money to buy a meal. 6 years ago or so, before he passed, we were sitting around my house and we were just talking about this wonderful auto trip we took across the United States. And we both recalled that idea of my stealing this dinner. And then he said that Kosh, you've heard that name a number of times, and Delalio, you've heard that a number of times, would have been real proud of him for talking me out of that. Now, it's 55 years after he met these guys. And it still mattered to him what they thought about what he did when he got hungry. For Ron, sports was a way to have fun without seeking glory and a positive lesson on what is right. VHS has every reason to be proud of its Ron Matalucci and the person it helped him become. Ron married Beverly Benesta, and they had produced a son named Michael, and Beverly's going to accept the award for both Michael and Ron tonight. You want to give it to her because put that one down, please. Oh, it's right there. You're going to do it, right? No, you are. Oh, I am? Okay. Oh, here you go. Here you go, honey. Come over here. How about that? Can you see?
Thank you, Glenn. Yes, Ronnie was a great athlete and certainly deserves this award, but he was also a loving brother to his sister Dolores, whose family is here with us tonight. And he was a good friend and a wonderful father to our son, Michael. It probably seems a little strange to have an ex-wife accepting this award, but years ago, Ronnie and I put aside our differences in order to help our son overcome his fight with addiction. Ronnie was always there, both emotionally and financially, and with our help, Michael was successful. In time, he moved in with his dad, and they became very close. Ronnie spent all of the major holidays with our family, and they both enjoyed hosting Christmas Eve and Mother's Day. As Ronnie became ill, Michael was there to take care of him until the end. Sadly, Michael himself became ill and passed away 14 months after his dad. Tonight would have meant the world to Ronnie. He spoke of it often, and I'm sure he's smiling right now. I am very grateful to be here tonight to honor Ronnie and to represent her son, Michael. They both would have been very proud. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, inductees, thank you for coming. Enjoy your Thanksgiving and go Clan. Thanks for coming.